Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking at something that on the surface seems like just another court document. But trust me, it unfolds into this really intense legal drama. It tells us a lot about justice and, well, human dignity. We're going into an order from the Supreme Court of Pakistan. It's dated June 30, 2025, civil petition number 354P of 2025. Our mission here is to get past all the legalese. We want to understand the deeply personal story inside this document, and also the really powerful message Pakistan's highest court sent about dignity, about justice, and frankly, about the role courts have to play.
Exactly. And this isn't just, specific to Pakistan's legal system. It touches on something universal.
Yeah.
It's about how courts everywhere sometimes have to deal with these ingrained societal prejudices, how they protect basic human rights.
Yeah, get ready for a story that, honestly, it challenges your perceptions. It's quite something. Okay, so let's set the scene. The main people involved are Salah Muhammad, he's the petitioner, the husband, and Ms. Mennaz Begum, she's the respondent, the wife.
Right. And Salah was asking the Supreme Court for permission to appeal. He wanted to challenge earlier court decisions. Those lower courts had consistently sided with his wife, Mennaz. They'd granted her dower, that's a payment due upon marriage in Islamic law, plus her dowry articles, gifts given to her, and also maintenance financial support.
Okay, so he's appealing against those decisions. What did the Supreme Court say initially?
Well, right off the bat, the court, this was Mr. Justice Yahya Afridi, the Chief Justice, and Mr. Justice Miangul Hassan Aurangzeb, they look at it and said, nope. They found no legal mistakes in the lower court's judgments. They called them, and this is a direct quote, well-reasoned, grounded in the record, and legally unassailable.
Legally unassailable. So from a purely technical legal view, case closed.
Pretty much. His appeal on those grounds was dismissed very quickly. It was legally quite straightforward.
Okay, so the appeal itself, dead in the water. But clearly the court felt there was more going on here, yeah? They didn't just stop there.
Exactly. That's where it gets really interesting. The court explicitly said there was an aspect of this case that demands urgent attention.
Urgent attention. So this is where it moves beyond just the law book.
Precisely. It becomes this deeply human story, unfolding within a legal framework.
So let's talk about the timeline, because the court laid it out, and they didn't mince words. They called the husband's strategy cruel.
It's quite a story. They got engaged back in 2003. The nikah, the marriage ceremony, was in 2006.
Okay.
But just a year later, in 2007, the court records state he allegedly subjected her to physical abuse. Then he apparently just left her at her parents' house, went abroad, cut off all contact.
Wow.
And refused any maintenance. Basically abandoned her within about a year of the marriage.
Abandoned her. And what happened next?
Well, get this. Only 3 years after marrying Mennaz, he went and contracted a second marriage. He actually has 2 children from that second union now.
Okay. So Mennaz is left abandoned, no support.
Right.
What could she do?
She really had no choice. In 2015, she had to file a lawsuit just to try and recover her dower, her dowry items, and the maintenance she was owed.
Right. And this is where his defense strategy comes in. And it's shocking.
It really is. Instead of arguing about, the amount of dower or maintenance or some actual legal point, he consistently, aggressively argued that Mennaz was, and I quote, medically unfit to perform conjugal rights and bear children.
Medically unfit. But he went further than that, didn't he?
Yes. Unbelievably. He disputed her very status as a female under the law.
He argued she wasn't legally female to try and get out of paying dower and maintenance.
That was the core of his defense, trying to completely invalidate her claim by attacking her fundamental identity.
How? How does an argument like that even get traction in court, persisting through multiple levels?
That's a really important question. And it really highlights how prejudice can sometimes seep into the legal process. Legally, it's almost nonsensical. But the Supreme Court itself pointed this out later. They said this targeting the very identity of the respondent was pursued persistently and aggressively through 3 tiers of judicial scrutiny, unnecessarily so.
Unnecessarily so.
Thereby subjecting the respondent to what this court recognizes as profound personal humiliation.
Profound personal humiliation.
The strong language from the court.
It is. And the aha moment here, I think, is seeing how the legal system itself, which is meant for justice, can sometimes be misused, almost weaponized, to inflict personal attacks, especially when these societal biases are at play.
So it didn't stop at the first court.
No. At the trial court, he absolutely insisted upon pressing the allegation that she wasn't legally female. And because he insisted so much, the trial court actually ordered her to have a medical examination by a standing medical board, like a panel of official doctors.
Oh my goodness, she was forced to undergo an exam. Yes. The board's report came back saying the case presented as feminine. Based on that, the trial court ruled in her favor.
Okay, so you'd think that would be the end of it.
You would think. But no, he appealed to the district court, and he made the same allegation again.
Seriously?
Seriously. Now, the district judge was quite sensible. He pointed out that, look, regardless of any medical report, the key thing for dower entitlement is whether the marriage was consummated. And since they had lived together for over a year, that was considered proven. So the district court also ruled for Minaz.
Right. Makes sense. 2 courts down. Surely now.
Nope. He appealed again, this time to the High Court, and the court documents say he deemed it reasonable to renew the same allegation.
He still thought it was reasonable after being shut down twice.
Apparently so. And worse, the record states that at his zealous insistence, Minaz was ordered to undergo another invasive medical examination.
A second one. That's just awful. Can you imagine the trauma? Being forced not once but twice to medically prove your identity in a court of law because someone keeps making this cruel, baseless claim.
It's hard to fathom the psychological impact, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not just about the legal battle anymore. And the second medical report. It was, according to the Supreme Court, entirely conclusive and categorically affirmed that the respondent is indeed a female.
Entirely conclusive.
Yes. The Supreme Court explicitly stated nothing in this report lends the slightest support to the allegations of the petitioner.
So, 0 basis for his claim. What about the infertility part of his argument?
On that, the report was inconclusive, and Minaz, quite understandably, declined further intrusive testing in this regard. The Supreme Court called her decision both lawful and eminently reasonable given the trauma already inflicted upon her.
Eminently reasonable. You can't blame her.
Not at all. And this really underscores how crucial it is for courts to see the human cost behind these kinds of aggressive, frivolous legal tactics.
It really is, as the Supreme Court called it, truly a travesty. They actually expressed disbelief, didn't they? That even after all this, his lawyer tried it again with them.
Yes, they noted that the petitioner's lawyer displayed the audacity to try to press the same line of argument even before this court, despite the lower court's clear findings.
The audacity. So the fact that the system allowed this kind of invasive personal attack to drag on through 3 court levels, that has some serious implications, doesn't it? What was the Supreme Court really getting at by highlighting all this? It wasn't just about dismissing his appeal.
Exactly. This is where the court's necessary observations come in, and it's really the core message. They stated, in the strongest possible terms, its disapproval of the manner in which the respondent was subjected to repeated, invasive, and demeaning scrutiny of her very personhood at the behest of a frivolous and cruel defense.
Strongest possible terms. They weren't holding back.
Not at all. They were essentially saying, look, what happens in court isn't isolated from society. It can become a place where biases play out. And they directly addressed the bias here, acknowledging that, sadly, infertility, or even the suspicion of it, is often weaponized against women.
Weaponized. That's a powerful word choice.
It is. And they warned that this can lead to courts becoming venues for humiliating a woman. Then they laid down a clear legal principle. Infertility, even if present, is no ground to deny a woman her dower or maintenance. It is certainly no ground to challenge her womanhood.
Right. That seems fundamental.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And they added, to convert such personal pain into a legal weapon is not only an abuse of the process, but an affront to human dignity that should not be enabled.
An affront to human dignity. So this principle that you can't weaponize personal pain in court, that feels universal, doesn't it? Not just for this case or this country.
Completely universal. It's a cornerstone of what justice should be. This ruling really offers a template for how courts everywhere can and should actively protect people's dignity. They also wove in cultural context, mentioning the marital bond is a sacred covenant. They referenced the Islamic concept of libas, meaning garment, suggesting marriage should provide protection, mutual respect, and dignity.
So using cultural values to reinforce the universal principle of dignity.
Exactly, showing they aren't in conflict.
And the court also talked about its own role, right? Its duty.
Yes, very clearly. They stated that women often constitute a vulnerable group needing vigilant protection and care. And crucially, they declared that courts cannot and will not be passive venues for the perpetuation of social prejudices that harm women.
Cannot and will not be passive, so an active role.
An active role is essential. They called safeguarding dignity a constitutional and moral obligation, especially, they said, where the power imbalance between the parties is so manifest, as it clearly was here.
Absolutely. This really drives home that justice isn't just about applying rules neutrally. It's about actively protecting rights and dignity. Okay, so having said all that, how did they finally dispose of the case? What were the consequences for the petitioner?
Well, they decided to use their power to award exemplary costs. These are basically financial penalties that go beyond just covering the winner's legal fees.
Exemplary costs, to make an example.
Precisely. To deter this kind of behavior, what they called frivolous, abusive, and malicious litigation.
And what was the amount?
The petition was dismissed, and Salah Mohammed was ordered to pay costs of 500,000 Pakistani rupees. That's about 500,000 rupees.
500,000. And that goes directly to Minaz?
Yes, directly to the respondent, Minaz Begum. And the court was very specific about why they imposed these costs. They said it was primarily as an expression of the strong disapproval of this court towards the misuse of judicial process by the petitioner to inflict gratuitous humiliation upon the respondent.
Gratuitous humiliation.
Yes. They pointed out he'd wasted the court's time and inflicted this degradation on her for over a decade.
Over a decade. So this wasn't just a penalty for losing the appeal. It was a punishment for how he conducted the whole litigation.
Exactly. It was a clear message. It was about drawing a very firm line about what is and isn't acceptable behavior in court, especially when it comes to attacking someone's fundamental dignity.
So much more than just the money. It's a powerful statement from the highest court about the boundaries of legal conduct.
Absolutely. The court explicitly stated its hope that this order serves as a reminder to all litigants and counsel that the dignity of every individual, particularly of women, must be respected in all judicial proceedings.
A reminder to everyone involved in the system.
Yes, and they concluded with a warning. Frivolous allegations attacking the personal identity and dignity of a woman will not be countenanced in any court of law.
Will not be countenanced. That's pretty definitive, a powerful message, intended, as you said, universally. So we started with what looked like a pretty standard appeal denial. And we've ended up unpacking this incredibly powerful judgment, one that really champions basic human dignity in the face of, well, years of personal humiliation and abuse of the legal process.
It really serves as this stark reminder, doesn't it?
Yeah.
About the judiciary's vital, active role. It's not just about interpreting laws. It's about actively protecting vulnerable people and making sure the courts themselves don't become tools for perpetuating societal harm.
Yeah, indeed. It really leaves you thinking, doesn't it? How can one court ruling, like this specific one, do more than just deliver justice for one person? How does it ripple outwards? Setting a precedent not just for lawyers and judges, but maybe shaping society's wider values about dignity, about respect, especially for those who might be in vulnerable situations.
And what responsibility does everyone in that system, including the lawyers arguing the cases, have in upholding these fundamental principles?
Exactly. Definitely something to think about. We'll leave you with that until our next deep dive.